ramen is one of those things that elicits that kind of like nostalgia and longing that people want.
That balance of that noodles and soup matching together.
It's something that people crave.
It's like a drug.
Ramen definitely arrived in the States first as a convenience food, a snack food, a cheap food. It's sort of unfortunate because I think people had a real idea that it was something that you eat when you can't afford to eat anything else.
I've had a lot of instant ramen.
That was the easiest meal to make around the house.
The go-to food where you don't have like many other things.
I would say ramen really hit the mainstream when a chef, then a young chef called David Chang, decided to open a noodle shop. And he was Korean American. He had lived in Japan for a long time. He said that he had to start making ramen because he could not get good ramen in New York.
It's a food group of its own, and they literally cook the shit out of it.
He knew from having lived in Japan that ramen was just a common food. It wasn't something that people thought about that much. They took it for granted. And so he had this idea that has become very prevalent in American food, at least what you would call like hipster cuisine, which is to take something that's considered kind of low and bring it up high. So when you talk about elevating a food, things get very complicated. We don't want to seem like we're being snobbish about things like cheeseburgers or ramen. A way that you don't want to elevate food is just by putting some foie gras on top of it or sprinkling some gold leaf on top. When a food is about to be elevated, usually the first thing is all about authenticity. It's going to be just like in Tokyo. I think the introduction to the concept of artisanal ramen was in a film called Tampopo that was very popular at film festivals. That chef in that ramen-ya was obsessed with perfecting every part of ramen. In the film, probably was the first time I had ever heard anyone slurping that way, and that loudly in a proper setting. That's the kind of thing you are told never to do. I learned later that there's actually a reason for it, which is that the broth of ramen is so hot that you really can't eat it unless you learn to suck in air at the same time.
That's fucking hot. That's 72 Celsius. You burn your face off.
There's infinite amount to learn. I mean, you can really go micro on the noodles, for example.
And I would say at least 70% of the products that we make are ramen noodles. Within the ramen noodles that we make, we have about 600 different types of ramen noodles that could be different from the type of flour blends, the mixture of the water and the ratios, the textures, the thicknesses, the color. And it really starts with the soup. And so if the chef has a specific type of soup or type of ramen they're looking to create, then it's a very good base starting point for us to start that conversation.
What is the last meal before I die? Ramen, I hope. I used a pressure cooker to get the high concentration of juice from a chicken. I can get very strong flavor from my ingredients. Yeah, we use kombu, chicken, sake, mirin, of course, soy sauce or sugar, salt. Yeah, many seasonings. It's a umami bomb. You can not taste, it's too high concentrated of taste. It's very dynamic ramen. In United States, I can do everything. In Japan, if I make like a totally new style of ramen, some people said this is not ramen. It's very boring to me, that feeling. They really respect old style. Keep doing old style. I just want to go to the new world, which is United States. Then I can do more freestyle, and then people enjoy.
いただきます。
Ramen is also a great example of the Japanese term umami. Umami meaning mouth-filling and savory, right? And all kinds of soups have that. They have fattiness, they have salt, they have a richness that almost cannot be described in English. Seaweed or kombu is in the broth, and that's a very important part of it. People just love the salt, and they crave the salt.
Yeah.
I think that the toppings concept is something that is truly universal. Things like shaved ice desserts, soft serve. People love to customize and pile things on. And ramen, I think, was one of the first things that we experienced in terms of Japanese food that was like that.
I'll add this in here. I will not miss the opportunity for some of this. Oh, yes.
The stage that we're at now with ramen is, let's make it our own. We're going to take the best part of a traditional bowl of ramen, the things that we love, but also take from other cultures.
Ivan Ramen is combining two ancient cultures, Jewish culture and Japanese culture.
This is how, American food evolves.
We've done one experiment with Chef Nakamura where we said, what are some of the things that we really enjoy about New York? Tomatoes, Italian influence of cheeses, and pizza was what he thought. So what he created was a very beautiful chicken broth paired with tomato sauce and sausage, and really stir-fried it and then poured the chicken broth over. And then what we did is we made noodles out of durum semolina with kansi and ramen noodle flour and crafted this beautiful Italian tomato ramen.
Things like the ramen cheeseburger, which is something that was very popular at food trucks a couple of years ago, where they literally took the blocks that come in the instant ramen and deep fried them and used them as the bun to make burgers. Then there are things like dessert ramen made of a blue jello and melted shaved ice.
I love Jell-O!
So you have all these very creative young chefs coming up today that are really, I think, pushing it to the edge.
I believe I can do more developed ramen.
In part, ramen allows you to be kind of free. And maybe this is the reason why a lot more people are interested, because you don't have so many strict guidelines of this is what you can and cannot do. But really, you can express yourself in a bowl of ramen.